Welcome everybody back into NerdSesh. As always, I'm Carson Brabber, and alongside me is Logan Camden, and you already know the drill. We got a whole bunch of phenomenal playoff basketball to talk about from today, and let's not bury the lead here, Logan. We're not going to go backwards in chronological order. We're going to talk first about the biggest game of the day, which was Anthony Edwards leading the Minnesota Timberwolves to a huge clutch victory over the Lakers to take a 3-1 lead in that series. Logan, I think we all know how you feel about Anthony Edwards. That is your darling baby boy. That is your future GOAT. What did you make of his performance in this?
I'm going to be fucking insufferable, y'all. I tried to tell
That's
y'all.
fair.
I'm going to be fucking insufferable. Like, this could be the Anthony Edwards ascendance that was prophesized. Dude, Ant 43, 9, and 6. 12 of 23 from the field, 5 of 10 from deep, and he got to the line 17 times. Back-to-back games against Luka, LeBron, and the Lakers. He has been the best player on the floor in back-to-back fourth quarters and finished them off. 16, 4, and 2 in the fourth quarter. I mean, it wasn't even close. And that's this game. Game 3, Ant scored or assisted on every single Timberwolves point in the final 4 minutes. He's here. We ain't got to wait around. I'm mad at myself, Carson, honestly. I think I should have had Ant a little bit higher in my top 30 player rankings, man. You had him number 11. I had him number 9. I think I'd bump him to number 7 above LeBron and AD. But behind Steph. I think that's where he belongs. I think even I was a little too low on Ant coming into the playoffs. And this version of Anthony Edwards, the reason that it is such a big deal that he's doing this right now and he is hopefully taking this leap permanently, really it has to do with the lights-out pull-up jump shooting, the combination of his athleticism and this knockdown shooting ability, but it's also the playmaking. The reason it's so crucial for Minnesota and the reason that I was completely out on Minnesota coming into these playoffs was their clutch offense. If Ant is consistently going to do this in crunch time, he erases the Timberwolves' biggest red flag. Which means, also, I don't want to bury this lead either. I got to give credit to Julius Randle for being great in this game, too. I think he has been really, really good in this series. I was a little too low on Ant, but I've been completely wrong about Julius Randle in these playoffs. I was optimistic that this could be a better run for him, and it really has been. The stat that we always paraded around coming into these playoffs, it's the lowest true shooting percentage by a 15-point-per-game playoff scorer since 2000. In this game, he gives you 25, 5, and 7. On the series, he's giving you 23, 5, and 5 on 61% true shooting. And you've just seen improvement in a lot of areas with him. My favorite is playmaking as well with Julius and just playing within the flow of the offense. We always talked about Julius having those kind of black hole tendencies, and he's eradicated those in the second half of this season with Minnesota and really committed to this role. He's a really high-level mismatch attacker. I think his shooting has become considerably more reliable, and I think he is succeeding much more in a different role. You think back to those really bad playoff series he had as the lead guy. I do think he is more fitted as a number 2, but that's the big thing with Minnesota. The two biggest questions about Minnesota, they've swung in a really positive way through 4 games of this first playoff series. Can their clutch offense generate enough offense to knock out the Lakers? Well, if Ant's going to keep playing like this, bing, we got that. Is Julius Randle going to play well enough and pull his weight in this series to get the Timberwolves a dub? Both of those answers, in my opinion, have been resounding successes, resounding yeses, and I'm pleasantly surprised with Minnesota, Carson. I root for Minnesota because I love Anthony Edwards so much, but I've been hesitant to accept that this is reality for Minnesota. And damn, man, it's going to be tough for LA to get back in this series, dude. Ant stole a ton of momentum in these last 2 games, man. Huge star-making performances for him, man. I think Ant's arrived, man. I think he's here, dude. I think he's taking this leap in these playoffs.
It's just incredible how he has played significantly better in the playoffs than the regular season every single time that he's been there. So far, He has been outstanding in this series. He has been playing at the level of a top 5 player in this series, and he has been overall the best player on the floor. Like outside of game 2, he's been phenomenal. So in all of the Timberwolves wins, he's been bringing exactly what they need out of him. And when he is at his best, man, he just leaves you helpless as a defense because you really can't overstate how insane it is that this dude who had a one-of-one athletic combination of elite speed, elite strength, elite vertical athleticism, became a 40% three-point shooter on historic volume this season. Like, that makes him one of the most difficult scorers to deal with in the NBA. And what's been just as impressive in this series has been his playmaking, because we knew that's what the Lakers were going to test in this series. They really didn't have a choice. They couldn't stay in front of him. They didn't have the rim protection. They had to load up with aggressive gap help. We saw them sending some flat out surprise doubles at him and trapping him even more aggressively in this game. And he's consistently made the right reads, again, outside of game 2, but in their wins, he's averaging 8 assists a game in this series. That's the reason that I think he is playing at such a truly, truly elite level right now. He's diagnosing the help. He's keeping his composure versus double teams. He's finding shooters. He's finding cutters. He's finding guys in the dunker spot. And it's just so impressive. And you're talking about Ant arriving, man. Like, his potential has always so obviously been stratospherically high. The question with Ant for a couple years now has never been if. It's a question of when is he going to get to his peak level in these different ways. And the when just keeps being even sooner than I expected. The shooting leap was more outstanding and quicker than I expected. This playmaking in the series has overachieved my expectations.
Shooting leap coming. I'm not going to lie.
Look, man, him being one of the 3 best three-point shooters in basketball this year, it's absolutely ridiculous, and it's a huge improvement from last year. So I know you always say he's going to be the GOAT. Literally, the only reason that he's not going to be the best player in the world is because Victor Wembanyama exists. Outside of that, I do think he'll be a top 2 player.
Can I ask you a question? Can we rule it out? Can we rule it out?
We can't rule it out. I just don't think it's a wise bet against Wemby.
I've just never seen a dude that is more him.
I've never seen a Wemby. I've never seen a Wemby.
I've never seen an Anthony Edwards.
Well, we've seen things come closer to Anthony Edwards than Wemby.
He's different, bro. He's
incredible.
He's 101, man.
He's absolutely phenomenal. You're right to give credit to Julius Randle, too. I have been hard on Julius Randle. We both have. He was phenomenal in the first half of this one. He struggled more in the second half. The jump shooting, I do think, is still very volatile with him. He's always been incredibly streaky, and I think he had a couple of really, really bad jump shooting postseasons back in New York, and now he's having a better one. It's not necessarily that I'm buying into so much right now with Julius Randle. It's his offensive process. It's his decisiveness attacking mismatches. It's his efficiency offensively. It is his willingness to share the ball. It's the ball not sticking to him in the same way. It's the fact that in New York, when he made the postseason, I mean, he was consistently super high turnovers, negative assist to turnover ratio guy. Like, he's cleaned all that stuff up in this playoff run. He's playing smart, efficient team basketball. That's what moves the needle, and that's really been a huge boon for the Timberwolves in this series. But I think their other huge advantage, and really the biggest advantage that they have in this matchup, is just that their depth and lineup versatility is so much better than the Lakers. And I think those two things, depth and lineup versatility, are more important today than ever before in the NBA. I've talked about this throughout the year. I mentioned just the other show, like, I'm working on a YouTube video right now about that exact idea, which is why, as somebody who has become so depth-pilled this season, like, I'm a little pissed that I didn't value that more in my evaluation of this series, because I thought we were in for a dogfight. I thought we were in for a very close series, but I did sort of default to the Luka and LeBron factor, the clutch offense factor, being the tiebreaker for LA, even though Minnesota does have the more complete roster. And it's just been the opposite story. Like, that depth of talent is where Minnesota shines. And on the flip side, that is where LA is weak. But if you just look at these supporting cast contributions for the Timberwolves, Jaden McDaniels, obviously an elite defensive player and has been so good as a scorer, especially inside the arc, attacking closeouts, getting into the lane. Naz Reid, just such a unique offensive weapon. He's made so many big shots. He's closed multiple games for the Timberwolves in this series so they can have their most potent offensive lineup. Donte DiVincenzo, special shooter, but he's also been disruptive defensively, especially in these last two games, has made so many big plays on that end. Nickeil Alexander-Walker hasn't even gotten as much burn in this series as I would have expected coming in. They just have so many different ways that they can beat you. They've closed back-to-back games now with Rudy Gobert off the floor. Rudy Gobert is one of their top 3 players, but he was terrible offensively tonight. So you get him off the floor, you close with your more offensively slanted lineup, and it's still a really good group. They just have so many different types of players, high-level athletes, skilled two-way guys who they can turn to. And on the flip side, the Lakers do not have that at all. That is a glaring hole of theirs. The Minnesota Timberwolves, these last 2 years, have built great basketball teams. And I appreciated it last year. I think I probably, in my love for Cat and the contempt I've held for Julius Randle, just overstated the drop-off of the roster. Because when Randle is playing at the level he is right now, I mean, you have another really good depth piece in DiVincenzo. And it's still a great roster.
No, it's still a great roster, but I don't want you to downplay the fact that, I think the reasons that we doubted the Timberwolves coming into this were valid.
I feel like I overstated them because it's just still such a great two-way team.
If we overstated anything, I think it was the Randle concern. But if I underestimated anything, I think it was the fact that Anthony Edwards was capable of doing this already. Even I was skeptical that Anthony Edwards could do this in a series against Luka and LeBron right now. Again, like you said earlier, it's never been about if, it's about when.
Yeah.
It just so happens that when is right now.
The growth is just so quick with him. Ant has been the best player in the series. That's a huge box for the Timberwolves to check. But again, just as significant, if not more so, is the difference in the totality of these rosters. And a lot of the concerns I had about the Lakers when they initially got Luka that made me a little lower on them than consensus have been their downfall. And ironically, I kind of started to overlook those concerns some more as the playoffs got nearer and the Lakers had some really impressive performances, but they were always inconsistent. And a big reason for that is their lack of depth is so glaring. The fact that they have 0 playable bigs in this series because Jackson Hayes really has not been somebody who can see the floor for more than 8 minutes a night. The fact that they have a defensive backcourt of Austin Reeves and Luka, both of whom have been targeted relentlessly because they have to switch everything defensively. And if it's Ant, he's going to abuse them with his quickness. If it's Julius Randle, he's going to abuse Austin Reeves with his strength. And if anybody on the Lakers team, anybody out of their best 5, the small ball group, is struggling or is in a bad matchup, there's just nowhere else for them to turn. They literally only have 5 legit dudes, and they only have one way that they can play basketball. They have one defensive scheme they have to adhere to. And the one guy who I look at in this series, and especially in this game, and I'm like, God, I just wish for the Lakers' sake there was another option, is Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves has been really bad in this series. And it's a really hard matchup. I actually said coming into this series, I thought Austin Reeves was going to have a tougher time, but it's probably been even worse than I expected. 17 points per game from him on 55% true shooting, just not nearly good enough offensive production. You compare that to what he was doing post All-Star break in the regular season, 22 points per game on 65% true shooting. I mean, was playing at a legitimate star level offensively. He just looks totally overwhelmed by Minnesota's size, athleticism, ball pressure, physicality. He's not able to look comfortable on ball offensively. Like most of his value offensively has just come from being a really good shooter, knocking down open catch and shoot looks. But the bigger problem has been his defense, where he's just been an absolute disaster. Everybody is hunting him, and there are multiple terrible defensive possessions from him late in this game. Donte DiVincenzo blows by him for an and one. He makes a mental error just hacking Jaden McDaniels when he caught a laydown pass in the dunker spot. And he was going to dunk the ball no matter what, man. Austin, what are you going to do? You're not going to block it from behind. You can't give him a free point to take this from a tied game to a 1-point Timberwolves lead in the final minute. It's just a really difficult matchup for him because of the size and physicality and athleticism of Minnesota on both ends. And like, it would be great if they could clone DFS and they could get another bigger two-way wing out there who can knock down shots and obviously is a higher level defensive player. That guy doesn't exist for the Lakers. I mean, they basically played all of their starters, or not their starters, because Jackson Hayes still starts, but their best five the entire second half in this game. And maybe you could justify a couple of Gabe Vincent minutes, but you can't turn to Vando reliably in a playoff series. They've turned to Jordan Goodwin a decent amount, but he's not somebody you really trust in these situations. That's been a big part of their downfall to me.
I mean, Reeves was way better in the second half tonight, but he just hasn't consistently brung it enough.
I don't know, man. I thought he was bad in the second half.
I mean,
he's getting destroyed defensively. His offense was better, but he's a two-way disaster in this matchup.
I don't think we can be surprised. I mean, and that was the one thing that I am mad at myself for overlooking in this series, just the Ant problem. Like, I think we definitely could have foreseen not maybe like the scoring volume to this extent, because I think that was always going to be dependent on the pull-up shooting, but like quite literally the fact that the Lakers have zero rim protection in one player. Like, you know what I mean? We always talked about the aggregate rim protection, but you don't have like a deterrent or a guy that's really going to
not even the aggregate rim protection, really. Just the fact that they were going to be so aggressive with help, and they have, and Ants just beat them as a passer anyways. And in this game, this was easily the best he's been as a driver, in spite of seeing that traffic, where just like his ability to navigate those packed paints, get to the line at a crazy rate. And then, as you mentioned, he's just unconscious as a pull-up shooter, because that's like the scariest weapon in the game right now is Anthony Edwards pull-up jumpers from beyond the arc. And he hits a couple of just insane ones in the fourth quarter. He was unstoppable in this game. He was.
But those are the two things that I'm probably upset with myself most for overlooking. The Anthony Edwards problem, like literally the problem that Ant is, the fact that nobody on LA can check him as a point of attack defender or as a rim protector. There's just no good answers. Like, Ant is raining pull-up threes. But it's also the point that you made earlier about the Timberwolves' depth. I mean, think about the closing minutes in this game, right? We all know what Ant did, the back-to-back big threes, the playmaking. But, like, Dante DiVincenzo has a clutch layup. Jaden McDaniels, as you mentioned earlier, has a clutch layup. Naz Reid has a big shot. It's just like Minnesota's just got way more guys that I trust. Yeah. And specifically, them being way fresher, and I don't think that was like the biggest difference in this game, but I do think it was a component in the Lakers finishing this one out. I think the Lakers were tired, man. I think they were dogged. Like, all of them played so much of this game. Like you mentioned, you don't get a time to breathe. Like, LeBron didn't have it offensively. I didn't feel like as much in the second half or in the fourth quarter. Now, I do want to give LeBron a ton of props for what he did defensively in this game. I have been really, really impressed with LeBron defensively for a while now this season. But I thought Luka had lost some gas by the time we reached the fourth quarter. I thought LeBron had lost some of that offensive juice. And it's like, that is where I really think you needed Reeves to step up. And I mean, he misses a big shot at the end. He's been consistently off all series long. But that's the thing with the Lakers, man. When you don't have a good team defense, when you don't have a good answer for Anthony Edwards, your margin shrinks. And when your margin shrinks, you can't have any of these off nights from anybody, because it really is all hands on deck. And that is where I really feel like Austin Reeves not pulling his weight has really shined through, man. Again, when we get to these playoff series and the team across from you has that kind of depth advantage, your margin shrinks, man. And I don't think Reeves has been good enough at all in this series. And I don't know, man. I don't think the Lakers are done by any means. I think they probably win Game 5. I just trust Luka and LeBron to kick into a gear that, hey, we're not getting bounced in 5 games, but you can't lose. Back's against the wall now, man. It's the path has become that much easier for Minnesota, man. They just got to get one.
The most impressive thing maybe for Minnesota in this series has been their ability to close out these clutch games, because like I said, that's where I thought LA had the advantage coming into this matchup. That was the reason that I picked the Lakers to win this series. And it's been the reverse. That's where Minnesota has won games 3 and 4. I thought that you saw a number of mistakes down the stretch from LA in this one. Obviously, Ant also just took over and was phenomenal, but like Austin Reeves, I already mentioned, multiple really bad defensive possessions. Luka losing track of Naz Reid as a trailer in transition to just sort of like fly over to Ant. I don't know what he was doing there, but that's a terrible defensive mistake. And then the one other brutal error for the Lakers was not being able to get that inbound in play when you're down one with 33 seconds left. In real time, I was like, LeBron, why are you not getting the ball to Austin Reeves? And I rewatched it, and he's open coming across. Like DFS is screening for him. Ant is caught under for just a second. There's space to complete that pass, and clearly LeBron is just waiting for Luka to come open the entire time. But Luka never comes open. He was never open to begin with, and LeBron misplaces the pass, and Jaden McDaniels gets a steal. That was a really bad sequence and extremely costly for the Lakers in this one. But if you just zoom out and you look at their clutch issues in this series, the biggest culprit is Luka Doncic, man. In fourth quarters, he's averaging 5 points per game on 29% from the field, just getting soundly outplayed by Anthony Edwards opposite him.
While being a traffic cone.
While being relentlessly targeted defensively. And you touched on them being tired, man. Luka is the guy where you see that he is just wearing down physically, and that is inexcusable. And it's so frustrating with Luka because this was the exact same frustration that came up last year, just not conditioned enough to consistently hold up defensively. And in some cases throughout 4 quarters of a highly intense playoff game, that cannot be the thing holding you back as a 26-year-old superstar. And yet for back-to-back years, it very clearly is. So Luka has to address that this offseason, man. And I think he's got to take a hard look in the mirror and say, the level that I was at this season is unacceptable, because it just wasn't the Luka Doncic that we've come to know. Like, I harped on a lot of the stuff about not getting by people, not getting to the rim at the same rate, not being as efficient as a scorer. And a lot of people wanted to dismiss it and say, he's Luka, it's going to turn around, he's going to be great. And even I, a couple games ago, was saying, okay, it looks like he's turned things around over these last 7 games. And then last game, obviously, he's sick. He was terrible, but you have to understand the context of that. But this game, the fourth quarter, just really bad. And fourth quarters throughout this series, really bad. They need more out of him. Like, I understand he's not the problem in this series. Minnesota has a better roster, flat out. But Luka Doncic is supposed to be one of the greatest offensive players we've ever seen, who can cover up so much for you. And he just hasn't quite played up to his level end to end this year.
He hasn't. I think that's going to be the big question about Luka Doncic long-term in Los Angeles. Like you mentioned, there's no real rush here with LA. You know, I'll be the first one to tell you, I had big expectations for him this season. I thought with the ball that we saw out of them in the second half of the year, I thought they were going to get to the Western Conference Finals. I think that has gotten much more difficult, again, because your backs are against the wall. You got to win 3 straight just to get out of this series. But your window is going to be open as long as you have Luka Doncic on your roster. But like you said, man, we've seen a track record now of something that has reared its ugly head in back-to-back postseasons, and it's something that's pretty fixable. You know, I mean, conditioning and preparedness. Because the one thing that I would say is, you know, Anthony Edwards damn sure ain't looked tired at the end of this game. You know, Luka did. And, so I don't know what it's going to take. I think he's just got to accept the fact that he needs to get better, man. And I don't know if that needs to come from ownership or the top down or the front office or what it's going to take to get him figuratively and literally into shape. This can't happen again next year. I'll cut him some slack dealing with the injuries from last season into this year, but this can't happen again, man. It's becoming a bigger and bigger problem.
And I know that there are people who will try to use this as a chance to say, oh, Nico was onto something. No, he's an idiot. Regardless of any conditioning stuff, Luka Doncic for the next decade is such a superior asset to Anthony Davis. It's not a conversation. We're not starting that up. But is there some validity to criticisms about Luka's conditioning? Yeah, because this guy came out of the gates and like literally 10 days into his NBA career, I remember making a YouTube video saying this guy's going to be a Hall of Famer. And then his second season was one of the greatest sophomore campaigns we've ever seen. He led the number one offense in basketball with nothing but spot up shooters and simple rim runners alongside him. Like, it was incredible. And then kept getting better. And last regular season, I thought was the best that he had been. And then since then, there's just been some more frustrations and some more inconsistencies with him than I would like to see. Again, Luka is not the problem here, but if he had been able to keep up his level through the fourth quarter, the Lakers, in all likelihood, win this game. And you do have to hold him to an incredibly high standard because he's one of the most talented players that we have ever seen. I will say the level that he was at as a scorer in the first three quarters almost won the Lakers this game, not just because he was being so productive, but because the Timberwolves started committing the biggest no-no against Luka with this Lakers team, Logan, which I talk about over and over again. What do I say? Do not put two on the ball. Do not try to blitz ball screens because he is going to pick you apart. And the Lakers have so much collective passing because LeBron is also out there on the floor. Austin Reeves is out there on the floor. He's a good passer. They're playing 5 out. Everybody on the floor is a lethal shooter. If you try to blitz those ball screens, you are going to allow a wide open corner three more often than not. And that's exactly what happened. Minnesota in the third quarter started blitzing more ball screens. They let up 36 points in that period.
Dude, you're literally spoon feeding them free buckets, bro, because you're going to send to Roy was getting to the middle of the floor every single possession. The help side corner guy helped off. And then, like, bro, you're giving them free points. Dude, that was incredibly frustrating.
I thought that was a very poor decision. I get it. Luka is torching you. I just think you have to make him continue to do that for 4 quarters compared to the alternative. Like, at the very least, test his body physically. Can he keep exerting that volume as a scorer? Can he keep making tough shots versus you? He's a phenomenal scorer, but I do think he's an even better passer, and it's even more so just about like the collective offensive weaponry around him. You just can't let these dudes get a bunch of wide open threes. I did think some Lakers played really well in this game. I thought that Rui was phenomenal as a shot maker. I thought that LeBron was extremely efficient, by far the most downhill and active around the rim that we've seen him. Part of that is cleaning up the offensive glass, but also as a driver, getting to the line at a crazy rate, and was phenomenal on the glass. And his defense was outstanding in this game. I could not believe that block on Dante DiVincenzo. Like, the fact that LeBron is still doing that stuff at 40 years old, it's just not real. And it very much felt like LeBron knew they needed this one. Like, he brought it with his full intensity for 4 quarters in a way that he certainly did not in games 1 and 2, and I think was even a level up from game 3 in terms of his overall exertion. They're using him so much as a roamer defensively in the first half, right? He's kind of the guy who they're sending on these stunts or doubles and recovering. He's just everywhere. And it is unfortunate that that performance from him doesn't result in a win for the Lakers, because I thought this was easily his best game. I understand he puts up more points in game 3 and the shot making was crazy. I thought this was a clearly more complete performance where you felt him in every phase of the game.
That's 2 of them now. And this is now 2 games in a row that the Lakers have let slip right through their fingers, man. Again, I can't overstate it enough. The Lakers, to me, their biggest advantage in this series was the clutch offense, was Luka and LeBron in crunch time. And Anthony Edwards has dogged them twice. And it sucks, man. Anytime you waste 2 LeBron games like this, you got to be kicking yourself. And I'm sure the Lakers are, man. Like, they could very easily be even in this series at 2-2. And in a different universe, if, a couple of shots fall, they could be up 3-1.
Yeah. These games have both been there for the taking. They've both been there for the taking. And Anthony Edwards went and snatched them and said, thank you very much. And the Lakers just didn't play their best basketball in the final minutes. Like, it's a game of inches, dude. These games are won on the margins, and the Timberwolves have clearly been the better team in those clutch situations, because through 3 quarters, like, this felt absolutely like the best version of the Lakers offense that we've seen in this series. Not even close, but they couldn't keep it up in the fourth. And just overall, they've needed more out of their top 3. I would put most of the blame on Austin Reeves, but I think Luka has needed to close games out better. I think that LeBron in the first couple games was coasting more offensively, and they've needed to be sharper on both ends. Again, some crucial turnovers in these last couple games, and the defensive execution hasn't been there throughout 4 quarters, with the exception of game 2. That was the only really complete defensive performance that they've put together. So, like you said, this isn't over. I think declaring a LeBron and Luka-led team dead prematurely is a very dangerous thing to do. However, the LeBron-Luka factor has not outweighed the Timberwolves being a better, more complete, deeper, more versatile team factor. And it does feel like they're better. And like the Lakers had to get one of these last 2. Those were the 2 games that were sort of 50-50 up for grabs. Timberwolves got both of them.
I still think if you were to press me for a prediction, I'm debating if I say I'm kind of leaning Wolves in 6, man.
That feels like the most likely outcome. Like, I'm very interested in how LeBron comes out in game 5, because I think he'll still be fiery. I think he'll have that motor turned up. It's just like he's 40, and we know he picks his spots at this point, and he wanted this one. He really, really wanted this one. So for them to launch a comeback, LA needs to basically play like
so
their perfect offensive games.
I'm sorry, I gotta get this off real quick, Carson.
Yeah.
The chat is cracking me up with all these Luka fat jokes. Hey man, look, I know Luka did not have a good 4th quarter. Like, he goes 1 of 6 from the field. I will remind you guys, like, Luka still gives you 13 to 28 from the field, 5 of 12 from deep, and a 38 piece. Like, come on, y'all. Like, I'm disappointed with how he ended this game. Come on, y'all. He's still Luka Doncic.
He is. I do wonder, though, like, if we weren't to give him the benefit of the doubt of just saying we know what Luka's been capable of in previous seasons, like, just as a player this year, how highly would he rank? Because I had him at number 4 in our player rankings, and that was just saying I know who Luka is. He doesn't rank that high this season.
No, I think he's
so far behind that, but he's not been better than Jayson Tatum this season. Hasn't been better than Steph Curry for the last 30 games.
Arguably hasn't been better than Ant.
Certainly not in this series.
Somewhere between 1 and 8. You know, if stuff's not included, I still don't know if I could go any lower than that with Luka, man. I don't know are you saying just this season alone?
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying projecting going forward, because there I think we say he's Luka Doncic. He'll clean some of this stuff up, and he's just one of the greatest offensive talents we've ever seen. But just judging what he has given you for 55 games this year.
I don't think I could go lower than 8, but this does feel like the low end, especially after what we got last year when it was so encouraging. Luka's ascending. He takes the Mavs to the NBA Finals with a basically brand new roster. It's a disappointing, come back to earth kind of year for Luka. But I couldn't go anything lower than top 8. But definitely not what you expected, man. Expectations are really high for Luka, and I don't think he lived up to them this year.
Yeah. It does tell you something about a player when you're disappointed with 31, 7, and 5 on 62% true shooting in the series. But obviously, the clutch stuff where he's been bad has to factor in. The defense where he's been bad has to factor in. Those obviously are really where he struggles. He's always going to produce offensively. It's just, is he at peak Luka levels there? And how's the conditioning? How's the defensive engagement? Stuff like that. I will say it's kind of been cracking me up thinking about how many people legitimately argued hard that this Lakers team was going to beat the Oklahoma City Thunder. Not going to see them.
No, they're gone now. They don't exist. That never happened, actually.
They've all been erased from the metaverse?
No, but like quickly, they're immediately going to say that they've been on OKC the whole year.
I don't know. I think there's too many Lakers fans out there.
That's how this thing goes, man.
That is how this thing tends to go, but we'll see what happens. I think people have too much contempt in their heart for the Oklahoma City Thunder to open up until reality, until it's too late and they've won the Thunder.
Man. The Thunder is so fun.
I know.
They love each other. They're just a bunch of happy young guys, man. And
Minnesota is very impressive. The Lakers are flawed. All of their flaws are being exposed right now. They didn't have time to build a full roster, right? Like, they just got Luka Doncic, and there were clearly holes at the time. and those holes are being exploited right now, and they're being exposed. And we'll see how much better they can make this roster around Luka. Like, obviously, they don't have a ton of assets to do it, but Luka and LeBron is a pretty darn good foundation. We'll see if they can bring in some free agents to improve this roster. I'm not going to do a Lakers eulogy. They're not done, but they're pretty darn close. And a lot of that is because the Timberwolves are a really good basketball team, and my concerns about them, especially the clutch offense and Julius Randle, have not been an issue in this series. They've been really, really good. We're going to take a quick break, and then on the other half, Logan, we're going to talk about the other games from today after some quick words from DraftKings. The NBA 82 game grind is done, and now the real fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and it's time for all the high stakes drama, clutch moments, and jaw-dropping plays. I can't wait. If you're looking to make the playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. From the play-in games all the way through to the finals, now's the time to back your favorite players and teams as they chase glory.
All season long, DraftKings has been the go-to spot for NBA player props, and that doesn't stop now. Want to make your playoff experience even more intense? Try placing a bet on your favorite player's performance. Will they drop 30 points, 40, or more? It's your call. Ready to place your first bet? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, lock in your bets, and let's make this playoff run unforgettable.
Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Make it a playoff run to remember with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code NERDS. That's code NERDS for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. We got another epic matchup to start the day, Logan. Knicks-Pistons. This comes down to the final second as Tim Hardaway Jr. puts up a three-point attempt from the corner, misses badly, but of course he is contacted significantly by Josh Hart. I think we just have to start with this, Logan. Did you think that that was a foul that went uncalled?
I mean, the ref said it should have been called. So I mean, yeah, I am in agreement. Like, I saw a bunch of other people on the other side of the aisle of this opinion say that they thought the game had been played so physically throughout that and I can see it from both sides, man. Like, I can see it from the ref side, as in you don't want to make that call in such a close game. Like, you just want to let the players play it out, which is where I traditionally err on, if it's the NBA or the NFL. Like, for example, if this was a Hail Mary attempt and you throw a DPI on the final play of the game when, it's a little 50-50. This, to me, though, was a little bit more clear-cut. I did think it should have been called. And unfortunately, things like this happen. After the game, they say the foul should have been called. He should have got the free throws. Just feels bad for Detroit, man. Anytime your team gets you feel like you got hoed a little bit. I feel bad for the Pistons, man. And yeah, I think it was a foul.
I do too. And I've heard that point about the game being played super physically as well, which it was. They were letting them play on both ends. But what I would say is being fouled on a jump shot, being hit like that, is significantly different than when there's a bunch of contact around the rim, which is mostly what we're seeing, right? Fouling on drives, physicality there, or jostling for position. When you get hit on a jump shot, I mean, that's just when you're at your most vulnerable, and like it's significantly more difficult to then make that shot than it is to finish an and one layup around the rim. So I thought that it should have been called. I understand that instinct from the ref to hold your whistle as well if you're not sure, but it was clear enough that I thought that was a miss. And I do also feel for Pistons fans because that sucks. At the same time, Logan, this one's going to go down in the books as a Knicks win, and they had some special stuff going in that fourth quarter to gut this one out. What did you think was the key to New York pulling this one out?
Well, you got to start with Karl-Anthony Towns. I mean, he hits two massive clutch shots, maybe the two biggest shots in his career. I mean, he had some big ones in the Nuggets series, but I mean, these were massive.
Unbelievable.
The reason the Knicks prevail in this game is the same reason I picked them to win this series. What's really surprising about this is really how bad some of the supporting cast was for the Knicks. Bridges gives you 8 points on 3 of 12. Anunoby only gives you 8 points on 3 of 13. But it's the reliability of the Knicks' two best offensive creators. Brunson, 32 points, 11 assists. Towns gives you 27 points in the two aforementioned massive, massive clutch shots. Potentially most importantly, though, the Knicks outshoot Detroit by 24 from behind the arc. And in a lot of games, shooting can be the very marginal difference maker. And you look at these guys for the Pistons, Beasley only goes 3 of 9 from behind the arc. Tim Hardaway Jr. only goes 4 of 13. Tobias Harris had a really, really good first half, stalled out in the second half, and goes 0 of 3 from deep. And so when you are at a creation deficit like Detroit is, when your only creator is Cade Cunningham, who Cade gives you the raw numbers in this game. I wish he was a little bit more efficient from the field and better at taking care of the basketball, but he's got such a big burden on his shoulders. You got to get offensive production out of other guys. And I just think the Pistons are a little bit still too reliant on Cade. And the guys around him needed to shoot a little bit better. But the Pistons are feisty. I honestly, man, I don't think the Knicks are that much better than Detroit. I think it's reflected in the fact that both of these last two games have been so close. Game 3 decided by 2 points. This game decided by 1 point. But I do think the biggest margin, the two lead creators for New York being better than Cade combined. Brunson and Cat are just more experienced, and I trust them more, and they've got the shooting edge. Again, when you make 8 more threes than your opponent, that's a really hard thing to overcome in any individual game. Shout out to Detroit, man. I don't want that to get lost in the mix, that these last two games have been decided by 3 points. We talk about the Lakers and Wolves, and obviously all that anybody cares about is the end result. The fact that the Lakers have now lost 2 in a row. The fact that the Pistons have now lost 2 in a row. I don't want it to get lost that both of these games have been so, so close, and the Pistons have been right there, man. I mean, it really does not get any closer than this game.
No, but when a game is that close, somebody's got to go out there and seize it. And that's what Brunson and Cat did in this one. I thought that they were both just outstanding in the fourth quarter. And it was extra cool because, like, both of them had their own narratives developing throughout this game, and they had their own adversity that they had to overcome. Like, Cat was really struggling inside the arc in this game. Both Tobias Harris and Jalen Duren were being super physical with him. I honestly thought that he got fouled a number of times and it didn't get called, but that's how this game was being officiated. They were holding their whistles, and that's the exact sort of shot diet that you want to be able to force Cat into, where he's sort of out of control on some of these drives and overwhelmed physically. And then Brunson obviously went to the locker room with an ankle injury, and like, you weren't sure if he was going to come back into the game. Didn't look like he was moving right whatsoever. He comes back in, and then it's just serving buckets from the second that he's back on the floor. They combined for 22 points in the last 10 minutes. And it was interesting because Detroit's interior defense in this game was absolutely insane. You mentioned the 3-point disparity. That is absolutely where New York wins this game. Inside the arc, they shot 32.7%. The last team to win a playoff game while shooting under 33% on twos was Toronto back in 2019. So something that we haven't seen in 6 seasons in the playoffs. And a big reason for that was they were being really aggressive with their help. And then they've obviously got really good size on the interior, but they started really leaving Brunson on an island in that fourth quarter, and he was just cooking them one-on-one, just getting into the paint over and over again. And he's not getting to quote-unquote easy looks, but he's Jalen Brunson. He's got some of the best touch and crafty shot making you will ever see. So he is getting buckets on buckets. And then in the final few minutes, they start showing more help to Brunson. So he hits a skip pass to Cat, who hits a big 3. And then Cat makes 2 of the crazier shots you will see in this postseason. Like the insane high arcing fade smothered by Duren with the shot clock winding down was absurd. Then he hits the contested 30-foot step back with the shot clock winding down. Like, he's 7 feet tall, man. you cannot underappreciate how absolutely ridiculous it is that there is a human being of that size capable of that level of shot making. And there's only one of them. And there's only been one of them in the history of this game, and it's Karl-Anthony Towns. So I just want to see Big Purr get some love, man.
I'm sorry,
because
he's the only one what?
Capable of doing that as a 7-footer.
I mean, Dirk Nowitzki existed.
Brother, Dirk Nowitzki was not shooting 30-foot step-back threes with the volume that Cat is. I mean, part of that is just the game has grown, but that's the truth.
Yeah, but I mean, you're talking like, do you think Cat's the greatest shooting big man ever?
No, all things considered, I think it's Dirk.
Yeah.
I think the Cat is the greatest three-point shooting big man ever, though, partly just because of the volume that he weaponizes it at. He's also over 40% every single year from deep, though. Once you involve the mid-range, I mean, Dirk is so clear from there that it's a blowout inside the arc.
Clarify what exactly the take was.
Yeah, man. I mean, Dirk didn't do that. Dirk didn't shoot 30-foot step-back threes. Karl-Anthony Towns does. And he's the only guy of that size still. Wemby shoots his step-back threes, but he's just still not as good a three-point shooter as Cat is. So he's having a phenomenal postseason so far, man. Averaging a career high in points per game in the playoffs, 22.8. Shooting the shit out of the ball, 52% from three, 65% true shooting, his best in any playoff run. 1.3 turnovers per game, his fewest in any playoff run. That is so big. Like we've seen it over the years where Cat is out of control. He's committing offensive fouls. The handle is out of control. He's taking excellent care of the basketball. He's being extremely efficient and productive, and he's playing some of his better defense. 1.3 steals and 1.5 blocks per game. Obviously still has his limitations, but he's keeping those hands active at the very least, and he's trying. So those two guys are the reason that New York wins this game, that and the collective three-point shooting, but they're really a majority of the three-point shooting for New York in this game. They combined to go 9 of 14 from beyond the arc. So it's just a big advantage that they have in this matchup. Cade Cunningham had a special third quarter. He is an excellent offensive player, but the Knicks have two of those guys. They have two of those flat-out stars, and that's really the difference. Like Mikal and OG and Josh Hart, they all made their plays defensively. Mikal made a couple big threes in the fourth quarter, but Brunson and Cat combined for 59 of your 94 points. That's special stuff from those two.
I'm so proud of Cat, man, and I'm glad that I'm just glad he's in a much better offensive situation where he can like really and truly thrive, and he's just so damn good, man. So damn good.
He is.
I'm mad that I didn't. I was hating on Cat so heavy last year, man. I've come around.
I'm so glad, dude, because Big Purr, he's something special. He's truly one of the most offensively gifted big men that we have ever seen.
True that, man.
And he has been treated like a punching bag for NBA fans for years. And I'm tired of it. And I've been tired of it.
I know this is a hard thing to project.
Yeah.
You think Chet could be better?
As a shooter?
Like, you're talking about all the stuff that Chet does, like that Cat does in a unique way. Do you think Chet could be as good or better? Strictly as a shooter, strictly talking as a shooter.
I'd be surprised. I can't rule it out. Chet is ahead of the curve, I would say, because when Cat came into the league, I mean, he only took like a 3 a game as a rookie, but then pretty quickly he was doing stuff from beyond the arc that no other 7-footers were. So I'll say I would be surprised. I can't totally rule it out, but I think if you look at stuff like the free throw shooting, right? Cat's always been excellent there. He's been like 84% throughout his career. That's an indicator of the great touch that he has, whereas Chet is more like in the mid-70s. Chet has sort of that flatter shot. I would be surprised, is what I would say. Also, if we're shouting out some of the best three-point shooting big men ever, Kristaps Porzingis has got to be on that short list as well. But yeah, I mean, I would say that strictly in terms of three-point shooting for 7-footers, Cat is one. Damn, you're right. I mean, I kind of view him differently because he never plays the 5, but he is a 7-footer. But he is a 7-footer. And honestly, he might be a better shooter than Cat from beyond the arc, but he had a bad shooting season this year, so we're not going to acknowledge it. He just does so much off movement and stuff. He's crazy. But for a center, Cat is number 1. I'm going to leave it at that in terms of three-point shooting in NBA history. I do want to give props to Cade for that third quarter, though, because that was just phenomenal stuff. And he was super quiet in the first half, but then in the third, I think he put up 12, 5, and 5 with 3 blocks. in a quarter. He was consistently getting into the paint. His shot making was on, and he was creating really good shots for his teammates. And the 3 blocks, and he takes a big charge. Like, that two-way potential is so exciting because he has the physical tools to hold up as a versatile man defender and to make those plays as like a really good rim protecting guard slash wing, which he already was this year. I thought he was just great in that quarter. But then in the fourth, like, the Knicks stars definitely did create the better clutch offense, and Cade was taking and missing some tougher shots. And he has several turnovers, and he has the huge turnover where Josh Hart stunts and gets a hand on that and knocks it off of Cade's leg. That's really what he has to clean up. Like, he has to take better care of the basketball. He's averaging 6 turnovers a game in this series. That's a crazy high number, and he was just out executed a bit in the clutch in this one. What do you think of Cade's performance?
It's really about the thing that we've been talking about early in this series, just like him being comfortable and working to get to that level of comfortability. Like, I'm going to give Cade some grace with this. Just considering everything, the situation, this is his first year ever in the playoffs. I think that he's going up against a relatively difficult matchup for him just in terms of the defensive archetype that he's going up against, an Anunoby, a Bridges. Like, those are good matchups for him. So, I don't know. It's about what I expected. I expected him to struggle a little bit in this. I didn't think it was going to be super easy on him. I expected some inefficient games, some high turnover numbers, but he's got a huge burden on him. It's like, and I think sometimes when I think about even prime Harden, I was like a little too critical on a guy like Harden for and this is a different situation because Cade's such a young guard, but when I'm making this comparison, I mean it just in terms of how much and how often they have the ball in their hands and how singularly responsible they are for almost every outcome of an offensive possession for their team. Same thing with Trae Young. It's like I'm gonna give these guys some grace, even though the numbers in the raw seem pretty bad. This is his first playoff run. He's a young guard. I think that Cade's gonna be a lot better, and I'm really optimistic about the future with Cade.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that the numbers look bad at all. I mean, the turnover numbers are high.
Yeah,
the true shooting percentage is low, but he is giving you 26, 9, and 9 and keeping his teams in these games when they are not equipped with the same high-level talent that the Knicks are. So I would say that, yeah, this is about what I expected from Cade as well. He's struggled in some of the areas that I expected, but he's also excelled as a difficult shot maker using his size. He has contributed a lot of assists, even though that's come with some turnovers. So Detroit just not quite as talented as the Knicks, but they are really, really close in this series. And I did think that their interior defense in this game was just phenomenal. And I thought Jalen Duren was great on the glass and he was good as a passer. So if they just knock down a couple more shots from beyond the arc, that could have been the difference in this one. Like Tobias Harris, THJ, Malik Beasley, they all give you decent scoring production, but none of them are quite efficient enough. And maybe if one of them had really big performance, that could have been the difference in this one. Obviously, the margins are super, super slim, but it is the Knicks duo that ends up pulling this one out. Let's talk about our nightcap, Logan. Bucks Pacers. This is another comfortable win for Indiana. It ends up being a 26-point victory. They're up 3-1. Milwaukee is on their last legs, and just as one final blow to morale, Damian Lillard leaves this game pretty early, goes down with an injury. It is feared that he has torn his Achilles, which means most likely he has torn his Achilles. I think we have to start there, Logan. What is the significance of that for the Bucks, not just in this series, but also looking at their future?
It's just so sad. I mean, I can't think of a worse possible 2-season run for Milwaukee in the Damian Lillard era.
Yeah.
To set the table, when the Bucks traded for Damian Lillard, Damian was coming off of a truly historic regular season. Granted, it was a little bit abbreviated because Portland didn't have anything to play for, but the stat line that Dame was putting up that year, 30-7, was something that, at his efficiency, giving you those numbers was something that I think only 7 players in NBA history had ever done before. And so you were getting like one of the best offensive players in basketball. And ideally you were getting a guy that you thought could pair really well with Giannis long term. And it's just been a series of unfortunate events year after year. Last year, Giannis getting injured during the playoffs, and that just kind of sunk their ship immediately, right? This year, Dame getting the deep vein thrombosis diagnosis, coming back. The injury today was only 5 days after Dame was cleared to run. And that's just so hard. Like, just that alone, getting your body physically not being able to engage in any activity like that while he's dealing with the blood clots could not have been anywhere close to the level he needed to be at game speed and conditioning wise at. Which is why I think the Achilles injury potentially might have happened, man. It's hard ramping yourself back up. Or it could have just been freakish. It just sucks, man. Because you can already see the domino effect of what's going to happen with Milwaukee. He's probably torn his left Achilles, which means that I don't know, man. Maybe Giannis and Dame have already played their last game together, dude. I don't know. I think it makes the Kyle Kuzma trade even worse, like now looking in hindsight, just considering what an utter disaster he has been in this series and just how valuable a guy like Chris Middleton would be just to have around as a guy who can float your offense in certain stretches. He's such a good veteran. Like, Middleton's never a guy that's going to get you anything super easy, but he's a really good decision maker and playmaker for a wing at this point in his career. He's such a good, tough bucket. And consistently in the playoffs, he played better than he had in the regular season. But getting back to it, the domino effect that's going to happen here from Dame getting injured like this. The Bucks don't have a ton of assets on their roster right now to get better. A lot of intriguing pieces that you could move off of to realistically improve around Giannis and Dame. And Giannis is still one of the best players on the planet. And so we've been saying it for a little bit now, even before the injury to Dame. I think you just got to move off of Giannis and kick the can down the road, man. They're too far away. You have nothing really to move, to pivot, to build around Giannis. Like, I don't know, man. Maybe this offseason you try to see what minimum contracts you could get. Maybe you could trade back into the first round and get some play now rookies, but like none of it's going to be enough to get you to the level that you need to be at. The standard that Milwaukee needs to reach, again, when we're talking about these title teams, because it's different for Milwaukee. When you have one of the best players in the world, your standard is championship contention. It's championship or bust. Anything else lower than that is really completely meaningless. The Knicks are better than them. The Cavs are better than them. The Celtics are better than them. The Pacers are better than them. I'd probably say the Pistons are better than them. Like, I mean, you know, maybe the Bucks could eke out a win against the Pistons in a series just because Giannis is so much better. But it's like all of those teams are clearly ascending and getting better, and the Bucks aren't. And so I think the only thing that they could do is try to recoup as many assets as possible. And it's the hardest bullet in sports to bite, but I think the Bucks got to do it, man. I think you got to try to get as many firsts, get a building block and some firsts for Giannis, and pivot to the timeline. At least you got one, man. At least Milwaukee got one championship out of Giannis is the only really silver lining I can give to Milwaukee. But they just waited too long, man. Brook got old really fast. His core got really old really fast. And I don't think the Bucks front office felt the severity of their situation with one of the best players in the world. I think they needed to have a little more urgency. And they just did a really bad job of building around Giannis post-championship. And unfortunately, this is the bed that they made, and now they got to lay in it.
Yeah, obviously they've done a terrible job building out this roster over the last couple years, but I fear that this is probably the last straw for Giannis in Milwaukee. Like, an Achilles tear is really the most devastating injury that an NBA player can suffer. Damian Lillard is a 35-year-old guard. Not only is that the position at which historically we've seen the least longevity into your late 30s, which is changing now, potentially, right? With Steph still playing at his level and Harden still playing at his level. And an Achilles tear isn't the career death sentence it used to be. Look at what KD has done in 5 years since his Achilles tear. Like, medicine is just better than it's ever been. But there's a real possibility that Dame is never the same after this. And even if he does come back, it is in all likelihood going to be after missing at least a vast majority of next season. So I just think this cements that like Giannis has to ask out, man, because Dame is almost 35. There are serious concerns about when is he going to come back? What level is he going to be at when he comes back? And this team already was not close and has zero assets to improve. Like with or without Dame, Indiana's just better than you. And that's Indiana. That's the 4 seed. So we've talked about all the areas in which they failed and putting two-way role players around them and figuring out their center situation when they should have moved on from Brook Lopez. Like the depth has just been a disaster for this team, and Giannis deserves better. There is never any reason for a player to be averaging 34, 15, and 5 on 66% true shooting and be non-competitive in a series, be getting blown out of games in the first round. And that's what Giannis is going through. So I feel for Dame, obviously wish all the best to him because this just sucks. But for Giannis, I just don't see the future in Milwaukee. And that was already the case, but this just really, really cements it. And obviously Dame was already struggling. He was shooting 6 of 27 in this series, definitely having a major adjustment coming back from the blood clots. I don't want to speculate on if there's any correlation there. And I listened to Brian Suter, MD, who I'm always plagiarizing when it comes to this medical stuff because I'm not a doctor, Logan, but I found a guy online who is one. And he said there's no reason to think that there's any connection between the blood clots and Dame having this injury. But what you said about him just not being fully tuned up, ready, it's hard to say.
General condition. Well, I don't even think that needs to be speculated on. I think we can just take that at face value that he wasn't at game speed. And I mean, that's just, you can logically deduce that from the fact that he hasn't been able to do any real physical activity for over a month. And so I didn't want to make that connection, but
no, I understand what you're saying.
He's definitely working from a deficit and already physically hindered. And so it's tough. I will say this about Dame and his skill set and why I would be a little bit encouraged. Look, Damian Lillard, I don't think is ever going to be the player that he was when the Bucks traded for him. And I think that Dame has already taken a little bit of a step back from the player that he was from then in the 2 years just by aging naturally. But Dame is one of the greatest shooters in NBA history. And I think that we are going to see him take a little bit of a step back in terms of production. And I don't know if he's ever going to be as good as he was these last 2 years. But I still think that Damian Lillard, post-Achilles tear, aging, can still be a very good player for you and very productive.
I hope so.
He's an all-time shooter. Again, I just think Dame's game is one that is still going to age gracefully, even without that top-tier athleticism. And his skill set lends itself to still being a productive, winning, offensive basketball player, even as he continues to get older and older. Obviously, he's still going to be an issue defensively and building around him. But I think that he can be good after this injury.
Yeah, an elite three-point shot gives you the best chance to just hang around as a productive, positive player into your late 30s, regardless of losing athleticism. For the Bucks, man, this is just really, really tough. I don't think that they will ever willingly trade Giannis without him forcing their hand, or without him at least asking out. Part of that is just because they don't have any of their own draft picks, so they're not going to reap the benefits of sucking. But I think there are a couple of teams who could throw out some crazy packages this offseason. We'll save more of this conversation for when the Bucks season is actually over. Let's talk about the Pacers, Logan. How do they just continue to dominate this series?
Yeah, I don't have a ton of new stuff about Indiana. This was a really good bounce back game from them. Everybody across the board. I was so disappointed with what we got out of the Pacers in Game 3, but I thought Nembhard had a much better game. I thought McConnell had a much better game. Haliburton was facilitating phenomenally, as always. Guys were hitting shots. Guys were getting over. It's a classic Pacers victory. And Siakam and Turner are so damn good alongside Haliburton, man. The skill in that front court with a playmaker like Haliburton, it feels so unfair at times. And, yeah, man, the Pacers are a really damn good offense. And The Bucks still just have no answer for them at any point. And that, honestly, Carson, I think has been the most disappointing thing about just watching the Bucks spirit get taken from them, dude. This is a team that doesn't believe anymore. And really, really sad stuff to see. Also, just really hard to watch a team try to rely on Kevin Porter Jr. and Bobby Portis and guys that generate offense. The Bucks are in a really...
Who were good tonight, by the way. They were clearly the second and third best players for the Bucks.
I mean, damn, man.
It's not where you want to be.
It's not
where you want to be. The biggest problem, obviously, has been that they just have not been able to reliably get stops at any point in this series. They had one half, the second half of game 3, where they actually were able to defend the Pacers at a high level. But outside of that, they've just been helpless. And because of that, they needed outlier shit to win any games in this series. They needed Gary Trent Jr. to go off for 37 like he did in game 3. Or if Dame had been right for this series, a Dame explosion could have won them a game, but obviously that never materialized. But it's just kind of funny when you look at some of the things that the Bucks have tried to turn to in this series defensively and just how ineffective they've been. Obviously, talked about coming in. You can't play Brook heavy minutes in this matchup. You can't just put him in drop against this Miles Turner pick and pop attack with the Pacers ball movement, their shooting and their speed everywhere. And that's how Doc started this series, and they were getting shredded like that. They had more success going with the switching lineups with Bobby Portis in at the 5. Bobby Portis has honestly been really good in this series, and they've done more of that. But they've also gotten really attached to this zone because I think Doc is like, that's the only way that we can play with Brook on the floor. We have to keep him in the middle of this zone because I forgot they tried switching Brook in game 2. That was their strategy. That was a disaster. They still have switched him in a few positions since then, a few possessions. But against the zone, the Pacers have generated 1.29 points per possession, man, a 129 offensive rating. They're just shredding the zone. It's the best passing team in basketball and one of the best shooting teams. So, yeah, they're going to attack the weak spots and they're going to get good shots. And in this game, Doc trotted out a double center look in the zone with Jericho Sims and Brook Lopez both out there. And you just don't have enough foot speed to recover out to shooters. So the Pacers are getting wide open threes.
You didn't love when they brought up the fact that the Doc Rivers loves how switchable and versatile Jericho Sims is as a defender, bro.
I mean, shout out to Jericho, man. Maybe don't put him out there with another center. Maybe 2 centers and go in zone against the Pacers isn't the answer. Maybe just play Bobby Portis 40 minutes.
I don't even want to beat up on Doc, man. It just feels like low-hanging fruit right now.
No, I agree. And he made a couple of adjustments that I agree with. In game 3, starting Gary Trent Jr., he did go away from Brook more and more as the series went along. He went more to Bobby. He got better as the series went on, but I just thought the zone stuff never worked. And obviously their base defense was never going to work. They just don't have the dudes to keep up with this Pacers offense, especially when everybody's offensive contributions around Giannis for Milwaukee are so inconsistent. We have a chat from Supernova who says they need to stop playing Kuzma. He's horrible. Terrible, terrible series for Kyle Kuzma. Just terrible. Him being the return for Chris Middleton.
Oh, yeah. Disaster. I was going to say, man, I think Kuzma, I was really optimistic. We talked about him at the deadline last year, way more than this year, about being a potential trade candidate for the Wizards. I really think Kuzma needs to go to a team with a Luka or an offensive just, monster. And not that Giannis isn't, but
that sort of maestro playmaker.
Yeah, they can just spoon feed him easy stuff because
I think the biggest thing, bro, is he just needs to get better as a shooter because he obviously makes bad decisions offensively, but he has the tools to really compete defensively. And there are stretches where he's doing it, and there are stretches where he's rebounding well. He's inconsistent with all of it, but if he could be a 36% 3-point shooter, I'd feel a lot better compared to him being one of the worst 3-point shooters in the league this year. That's a problem. It was a bad move. It was a bad move for them to bring in Kuz as the answer. He's not.
Kuzma's never been the answer, man.
No.
And now they just sent Chris Middleton to basketball purgatory, man.
Yeah. Prayers up for the boy Chris. Prayers up for the Milwaukee Bucks too, man. I feel for you guys, and unfortunately, I think this is an offseason where a lot of big things are going to change, and they have to. They absolutely have to. Let's talk about the last game of the day, Logan. Magic-Celtics. The Boston Celtics take a 3-1 lead with another close victory today. What did you take away from this one?
I mean, I think the fundamental takeaway from this game is pretty similar to the ones that I've had in this. Orlando's half-court offense just isn't good enough, and their shooting is so frustrating. I do want to give Orlando a lot of props, though. I think there are a few teams in the NBA that can defend Boston as well as Orlando does. Like, I am consistently impressed by Orlando and how they match up against them. This, switch everything scheme, their ability to defend a lot of these players one-on-one, if it's Tatum, if it's Brown, and their ability to not help off shooters. Like, I mentioned these numbers last episode. I've mentioned them a few times talking about these games, but Orlando's defense was better at limiting three-pointers than anybody in the league, and that's Boston's superpower. They attempt more three-pointers per game than any team in NBA history. That's one of their superpowers. The other superpower that Boston's offense has is their ability to attack mismatches at a high level. And so what that means is if your defense is exploitable by those two things, Boston is just going to abuse you. But you can't do that against Orlando. I mean, Paolo, Franz, Wendell Carter, like Anthony Black, KCP, there's so many good defenders. This is a team that's down an all-defense caliber guy, in my opinion, in Jalen Suggs, and they're still able to defend Boston at such a high level. And so every time these teams square off, I just continue to be amazed at Orlando's ability to defend them. But Orlando's Achilles heel is their Achilles heel. They don't have enough shooting around these guys. They don't have enough skill, but I really like Orlando's defense. And so I didn't want to be completely negative about this team, but I'm really impressed with Orlando's defense. It's just so frustrating, man. I thought this was another really good game from Paolo. Not as good as the games have been. I thought it was a really good game from Franz.
Yeah, man.
I really like their young wing tandem. I really like this defense, but damn it, man, you're getting damn near 30 minutes from Corey Joseph, bro. That tells you about everything you need to know about the state of Orlando's offense in the big 2025. But this defense defends Boston really, really well, and I just want to tip my cap to them for that.
I couldn't agree more. And that's where I think they deserve the most credit. And that's why this series has actually been so competitive game after game. Offensively, the Magic are getting little to nothing from anybody outside of Paolo and Franz, who have been consistently impressive. Honestly, they've both been impressive in all four games. Like, this was the worst Paolo game, not efficient from the floor, lots of tougher jumpers that just weren't falling. And Franz, I thought, played a really good game. I did. And he has been really excellent in this series. They've both been awesome. I mean, the efficiency isn't great, but like the volume, the production that they're giving you in this context is super impressive. But the rest of the offense is really a joke. But they're staying in these games because they're guarding Boston so well. And you touched on exactly what it is, Logan. This is a team that has so many big, versatile athletes that they can basically switch everything, make you beat them one-on-one, not going to overhelp. They're going to contain the ball. They're not going to let you really get that drive and kick game going. So as a result of that, Boston, who averaged 18 threes made in the regular season, is averaging 11 and a half threes made against Orlando. They averaged 26 assists per game in the regular season. They're averaging 17.8 assists per game versus Orlando. So the ball isn't moving like usual. They aren't creating those wide open threes. And it's really just like, can we beat you one-on-one? The guy who has struggled in that capacity is Kristaps Porzingis, who has shot 2 of 13 on post-ups in this series. He was much better today.
Finally, they got him rolling to the basket.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, and I just think, honestly, dude, the state KP's in, I think KP just needed to see the ball go through the net a couple times a day, man.
And it was big that he hit a couple threes, and I totally agree with you. Like, KP is so special because of his shooting, because of his ability to attack mismatches. But at the end of the day, he's also 7'3", and when the tougher stuff isn't going for him, get him some easy stuff. Just be 7'3", be big as hell, roll to the rim, and that was very effective in this game.
It's been really concerning, though, the level that he's been at attacking mismatches in this series, and especially how off he's been, like from the elbow and the nail. Just like,
So
I
weird.
mean, again, it is ingrained in my brain, but the playoffs, the NBA Finals last year against Dallas, he's getting to these same looks, but he just looks uncomfortable, man. I can't really wrap my head around it.
Yeah, I think part of it is physicality. Orlando's being super physical with him, and he can struggle with that a bit, but these are shots that he usually makes. I mean, these little short jumpers out of the post. He's been the most efficient post scorer in basketball over the last couple years. Like, this is what he does in A+ level. This is a reason I'm so high on KP, is because he is so destructive against teams that try to switch smaller guys onto him. Orlando's done a good job defending him, and then he's also just missed some shots that he should normally make. But he was better in this one. But the one dude whose one-on-one scoring ability really came in huge in this game is Jayson Tatum. 16 points in the fourth quarter, 37 points overall in this one, and just showing you that he is at a different level as a scorer than he was in the playoffs last year, which I'm very glad to see, because Tatum comes out with a scoring clunker in game one, and obviously the detractors are out in droves saying, oh, he's getting carried by his team. But like, he follows that up with back-to-back 35-plus point performances. This is crazy, Logan. Tatum only had 35-plus in 2 of his 19 playoff games last year, and he's had 35-plus in 2 of 3 playoff games this year. So
They don't
he's
want
at
to
the
talk
best
about it,
level
though,
he's ever
man. They
been.
don't want to talk about it. They
No,
just
the
want to
media
shit
doesn't
on
want you to know.
Jayson Tatum and talk about how
This is awesome, Logan. Can I just say, this is a 180 from you.
just fucking
If
pisses
you
me
in the
off.
playoffs last year saw you right now saying this,
I'll probably
you'd be
fight him.
shocked.
I'll probably fight him.
You probably would fight yourself. And if you from the past saw you giving respect to Karl-Anthony Towns,
I'd probably
I
fight
mean,
him.
you'd probably
fight
fight
him.
him.
I'd probably fight him.
But if you from the past saw you glazing Anthony Edwards, you'd probably kiss yourself. You'd probably say, that's my boy.
Maybe. Look,
Yeah.
dude, honestly, the people turned me against Tatum. The Tatum
The
haters.
The hate got cornier than you thought Tatum was corny.
Well, yeah, and I just think that people I think they hyper fixate on Tatum's bad games, and they hyper fixate on off scoring nights, and they try to detract from him. It's like, bro, when Tatum is on as a scorer, and I don't think this was the most efficient game from Tatum, but he did have it going at stretches in this game.
And he got to the line so much, it still ends up being like 60% true shooting.
Tatum is so impactful in so many ways in the game, as a defensive stopper that can defend 1 through 5, as a rebounder that ends possession so consistently, as a high-end playmaker now. So he impacts the game in all these different ways. That when he is going as a scorer, he's one of the best players on the planet, and I'm tired of pretending he's not. And I just kind of think that people took the playoffs last year, which was a letdown. I don't want to act like it wasn't. And they look at the Olympics and they clown on him, but it's like, to me, I know what level of a scorer Jayson Tatum was every year of his life before those playoffs last year. I still remember when Tatum was dropping 50 pieces, in big games when he was younger than that. And so it's like, I think he's more consistent as a scorer. That's what I said during the regular season. I don't know, man. It's like, I think some people that hate Tatum have unrealistic expectations for him. I think they expect Tatum to one day be an Anthony Edwards or one day be a Luka Doncic. Jayson Tatum is never going to be that as an offensive basketball player, but Jayson Tatum is an excellent basketball player. It's just like, I don't put unreal expectations on Tatum anymore, and I'm not surprised when he does have off-scoring nights. I think people don't like Tatum because he's on a really great basketball team, and I'm not going to act like Tatum's a perfect offensive player, but I also just don't want to ignore how great he is, man. And I think the Tatum hate's just whack to me, man. Maybe they hate Tatum because he's a little corny. Man, I don't even care anymore. Tatum's a great hooper.
He absolutely is.
Give him some respect, man. Can we stop the Tatum hate, bro?
I don't really know that there's that much of it going right now, but there is definitely Tatum hate still.
It's always there, bro.
Stratosphere.
Tatum is never.
I think that there's a turn right now, though. I think that this is kind of a pivot point in the Tatum discourse. I think that people are becoming more sympathetic, and people are starting to understand that he's underappreciated in some of these ways.
I just don't know what it's going to take for it to stop. Like, what else does Tatum need to do to prove himself to people?
I think it'll help because he'll have a better scoring run this year than last year. And like in years past, I've been critical of some of Tatum's postseason scoring inconsistency because it's been a thing. I just think he's gotten better. And I think he's gotten significantly better as a playmaker. And I do think his all-around impact is some of the most consistent in basketball. And I think he is the most versatile player overall in basketball. And he's balling right now. So that is good to see. Obviously, you'd like to see the Celtics winning by a little bit more against the Magic, but Orlando's defense really is pretty special. And I think that's why these games have been so close. Like, there are some things for Boston to clean up. They haven't shot the best when they have gotten looks from deep. Obviously, KP was really, really bad in games 1 and 3. Jalen hasn't been his best outside of game 2, but they'll be all right. Shout out Big Al Horford, 5 blocks in this game. How is he still doing this? One of a kind.
Big
I get
Al.
he and Nick Batum are 2 of a kind because they're both still doing this, and they came into the league 100 years ago.
Winners, man. Winners.
Winners win. On that note, Logan, this wraps up a beautiful weekend of basketball. Actually, we do have a chat from Ethan who says Pritchard has been a non-factor the past 2 games.
Pritchard's been tough too, man. I mean, he's really been struggling in this clogged up environment.
It's just so hard for him because he can get past people and then he gets in the paint and he's like, shit, I'm 6'1" and everybody around me is big as hell. Like, can't finish at the basket in this matchup. So yeah, he had it going really in game 1 and he was pretty good in game 2 in Tatum's absence, but then he has been silent basically as a scorer in these last couple of games. I will say he fights defensively. His ball pressure for being a dude who is as small as he is, like, there are times where he switched on to Paolo and it's like, listen, man, at least he's going to make him a little bit uncomfy. He's going to bring that ball pressure. Supernova says you put Tatum on the Lakers and they're up 3-1.
For real, bro. That's what I've been saying.
I presume you're proposing a Tatum-Luka swap?
No, bro. Dude, honestly.
Well, yeah, if you just put Tatum on the Lakers, they're up 4-0, bro. That'd be ridiculous.
I was thinking a LeBron Tatum swap.
Oh, could be.
I would love a Luka Tatum combination, man. That would be
I feel like their fan bases are at war, especially because of the finals last year. I feel like people are always comparing the two of them. And because, like, a lot of people will probably have them in, like, those 4 and 5 spots in their player rankings. Could they overcome it to form a friendship? Could be a beautiful film.
I mean, Tatum's definitely over Luka this year for just this season, but I still got Luka over Tatum for sure, like, player rankings-wise.
I would agree. On both counts.
And spiking, though, man. And spiking. They don't want to talk about it, man. I'm going to have Ant as my number 0 player, bro. He's going to break the board.
I do remember last year in the playoffs, you said that you thought Ant would be a top 2 player by the end of this year. He's not quite there.
But he's damn sure
He's
close.
Pretty insane. He's pretty nasty.
I love Anthony Edwards, man. And I love Naz Reid. And I love talking basketball with you, Carson. And
yeah!
Man, can I tell you something, bro?
Yes, please.
Former president of the United States, Barack Obama, has just informed me that NerdSesh is going to be
back on
tomorrow. Yes.
Holy crap. That's awesome. Yeah. Hopefully Jimmy Butler plays basketball for the Golden State Warriors. If he doesn't, then I don't know. Maybe we won't be back tomorrow because it is only that game in Cavs Heat. So if there were ever a day to take off, then that would be the one. But do we take any days off here, Logan? Not that I can think of. Not that I recall. 0 days off, baby. Mama mentality.
Please, Jimmy, play, though, bro. Please.
Okay, chill. All right. That's a little bit enthusiastic, but I appreciate the sentiment. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the basketball and hope you enjoyed our post-game yap. Like Logan and former President Barack Obama did both say, we are going to be back tomorrow, probably, and basically every night for the rest of eternity because we're both chained up to radiators and we're just destined to talk basketball until the end of time. So if you want more of it, our YouTube channel has everything, all our full shows, all of our video essays and breakdowns that we do. And you can listen to all of the episodes across all audio platforms. You can also follow us across social, TikTok and Instagram at NerdSesh, Twitter at Nerd_Sesh. And you can join our Discord if you want to be part of our community and chat with the gang there. I am going to go watch the new episode of Nathan Fielder's show, The Rehearsal, Logan. Absolute genius television. I couldn't recommend it enough.
One of my friends was actually talking to me about that yesterday. He said it was really
It was me in a big hat and a fake mustache.
Now that you mention it.
Yep. You recognized my musk, didn't you? But you didn't realize it in the moment.
I thought that guy was kind of abnormally tall, and he kind of did look like you.
I was also on stilts.
Were you talking on an accent, man?
I was doing my classic German accent, yeah.
Fuck, you're good, man.
Thank you. I can inhabit any person. It's one of my gifts as a mimic. Yeah, anyways, I recommend that show to everybody. All right, with that, as always, I've been Carson Brabber.
I've been Logan Camden.
And this was Nerd Sesh.